What is going on, Panther Lair? We are talking about the Pittsburgh Panthers' road loss to the Stanford Cardinal this past Wednesday night, 75-67. I think this is a good opportunity to talk about defense, specifically Pitt's game plan going into this for how they were going to try to stop freshman sensation Ebuka Okorie. If you watch the game, you know that did not really work out in the second half as Okorie went off for a team high and game high 34 points on 11 of 19 shooting, which includes 3 of 6 on three-pointers and a perfect 9 for 9 from the charity stripe. But let's dive into the Panthers' early game plan and talk about it. So this is going to be the opening possession for Stanford, and you see basically what the Panthers want to do is to blitz him coming off of ball screens. Now, middle ball screens are going to work a little bit different than screens that occur kind of around just above the break here along the wing. We'll talk about that. Another key note here is DeMarco Minor consistently was getting screened, and that was a pretty big problem, although on this particular possession did not end in a negative result. You'll see because what happens is Okorie is so talented, he's able to split this immediately and get downhill without actually being turned away at all. And because of that, he does get all the way to the rim. Does miss this layup. Negative also for the Panthers is that Stanford ends up with an offensive rebound. So here we go. Amari Witherspoon, who I thought did a pretty decent job defensively, although did not have a great game offensively. He is able to fight off of this immediately, this ball screen, and they are able to effectively blitz Okorie, and the result is exactly what you want, is to turn him away from the basket. So job well done. Again, defending side pick and rolls around the above the break wing area when the sideline is also a defender is helpful. Now, Minor, again, here gets screened. I think this is where you have to try to get skinny or take an initiative to step out. There's a lot of help behind you. I don't think that Geller is going to absolutely light you up off the dribble. Instead, he just kind of allows this screen to be set on him, and then Geller hits. I mean, you could see that this is uncontested, more or less. I know at the end of this looks highly contested, but the shot is already in the air. This is a very good look for a guy who's very competent taking that shot. So here's what I think the Cardinal figured out towards the end of the first half is rather than use ball screens, hey, let's just go one-on-one and see if you could stop my guy. Clearly they could not. And some of these transition opportunities alluded to that. But you also see that some of the adjustments were is like, hey, let's try to take as many defenders here and get them above the free throw line. So it's just basically Okorie on the smallest player on the court in Minor and just no chance. And again, with Cam Corrin's man stopping way above the free throw line, I mean, there's just not going to be help. So let's move to the second half. That theme continues. Guys are going to continue to be spread out a little bit. And now we have Barry Dunning Jr. on Okorie, which, you know, on paper, that probably looks at least reasonable given that Dunning Jr. has a little bit of a length advantage, certainly a size advantage. Not fleet of foot, though. And he ultimately gets burned here for a layup as well. It's hard to help out of the strong side corner, although I would say that, you know, in this particular instance, you know, you could probably be a beat more or commit a little bit more, I think at the very least, to not allow a straight drive to the rim. This one, pretty bad, right? So you have Corrin out here defending Okorie, not a great matchup to begin with, but then doesn't choose to get a body on him, probably because he's not greatly familiar with having to defend this far away the basket too often, and then you allow the guy that shot the ball to just straight up get the ball. Not great. Here we go again. Now, this is a situation where if you don't blitz, if you're just going to say, hey, let's just switch this, right, this does nothing. Okay, so if you don't if you don't blitz him and you just allow Okorie to continuously dribble without turning him away with, again, the sideline in your advantage, something we just saw in the first half, this isn't great. And now you leave Corrin, who has no chance to defend this guy whatsoever on the perimeter. We just saw that. And another pretty looking layup for Okorie. Okay, here we go. Again, Dunning Jr. directing traffic, basically trying to space guys out as much as possible. Also, you'll notice here that if I was an opposing team that I was playing against Pitt, I would try as much as I could to have Nojus Indrusitis be the low man if DeMarco Minor was not an option, right? I mean, it's just the way it's going to be. And so you see the last line of defense, if that's Indrusitis, who's had a really couple good games offensively for himself recently. I don't want to take that away, but that's probably would be my pick for a defensive low man. Here we go again, this one in transition. Bad angle. Okay, so this is the most dangerous guy on the floor. and nobody picks him up coming over half court in transition because this angle is terrible. There is just no way that Indrusitis is ever going to beat Okorie here if he just starts putting his head down and going downhill. You're not going to help out at the strong side corner, I guess, but it's Minor here who basically, steps in, so does a good job of at least committing more than we had seen with Amari Witherspoon previously, but the result is an and one. Bad angle coming out of transition. I think that's the moral of the story. Here we go. Indrusitis one-on-one here against Okorie. That's not going to be fair. Now we start to get into some threes here. So I'm going to back up a second here because I tried to keep this design in on purpose. What you started to see the Cardinal do a little bit more was set these double high screens for Okorie to like option off of each side. And what it does is, with Stanford setting such good screens, is it's basically boxing in the small player and allowing him to go one-on-one in a wing scenario against either Corin or Cialepa. Now, Cialepa didn't play a lot in the second half, so this would probably be Barry Dunning Jr. in most situations, but it allowed him to go one-on-one against a player that he had a favorable matchup. Because, again, this small player gets boxed in. I saw this a few times here in the second half. And now you have, even though this probably could have just been a blow-by layup, you have a very comfortable perimeter player against Cialepa, who gives a lot of effort, but probably not able to adequately contest that shot to a great degree. So really like this sidelines out of bounds play here by the Cardinal. So you're going to see the design. They send one guy over here, and instead of coming off the double stagger here to the corner, which would allow Corin to kick over and contest, or Witherspoon immediately coming off the ball potentially, while also defending if his player was going to just kind of crash underneath the basket post-pass. He cuts between, so he twists this, and what this does is it drags Indrusitis and Corin into the middle to allow Okorie, who is the most dangerous player on the floor, to then come across this stagger and into the corner. So a really good play design here. Again, Minor, not a great screen nav, I've highlighted that already, but this essentially takes out all the help. And now you have a very confident shooter over the smallest player on the floor. So this one kept in. I mean, this just kind of shows you, the next level skills that Okorie has and just his supreme shot making and handle. Not much you could really do there. I mean, honestly, you got to give credit for Minor for at least trying in that one. But yeah, I think this really came down to the Panthers had a pretty good plan going in for how they wanted to limit this. And honestly, they just weren't going to be able to contain a player of this caliber. And I think you obviously saw that. And no matter what they would have done, short of trying to double him, just straight double him and have the ball go elsewhere, which they didn't really try. I guess they could have. There was very little to do. I mean, everybody had a turn at trying to defend him, and he pretty much was able to blow by everybody. I think they probably hunted everybody besides Witherspoon the most, and I think that's what you saw here on tape as well in terms of his makes. But, valiant effort. We'll see if Pitt can rebound against Day-Day Ames here on Saturday, and maybe we'll be breaking that one down.